News of price increases around the Disneyland Resort. Plus, what is this 5% surcharge happening at SeaWorld? Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique reservations are now available, and Magic Key renewals are now available. Plus, some interesting new caveats and the new keys that may interest you. All coming up next on Fresh Baked. Hi guys, David here with Fresh Baked. We've got a news roundup for you from around the Disneyland Resort, and we're going to start with what is always a sensitive subject, price increases at Disneyland. Magic Keys were hit with a price increase across the board, and we're now also hearing reports of price increases throughout the park. A couple of examples per Disneyland News Today, who reported that Dole Whips had gone from $5.99 to $6.49, turkey legs from $11.99 to $12.99, corn dogs from $9.79 to $10.59, a Mickey pretzel at Bayside Brews is now $5.49, up from $4.99, and a fountain drink at Coke Corner is up to $4.99 from $4.29. These increases range from a low of 8% to a high of 16%. For the fountain drink at Coke Corner is up 16%. I mentioned the percentage because the first thing that comes up whenever we have a conversation about this is inflation. Price increases happen at Disneyland. They've been happening for years, and they will continue to happen. Price increases, just like inflation, are an established fact. Now, according to this chart, inflation in 2021 was at 7%, which is high in and of itself. Usually inflation is in the 2 to 3% range. And we've all heard about the inflation numbers for 2022, which is now in the 8.5% range. Now, unfortunately, I don't have more historical information on how Disneyland's price increases compare to price increases that have occurred in the years past, and whether or not these increases outpace those increases. Nor could I say with any specific accuracy how long it's been since the last price increase. For example, if it's been 2 years since they've increased prices at Coke Corner for that fountain drink, well then that 16% increase doesn't look as bad. It's more like an 8% increase per year. Still not great, but it's not as bad as it sounds. And there's been talk about this throughout social media that I've noticed. A lot of people are talking about individual prices for things that they're noticing. My guy Haston on Twitter reported that the price of the Jolly Holiday salad went from $8.49 to $9.99 recently. That's a big increase, $1.50. But he also said that was the first price increase for this salad in 6 years, which, to my knowledge, I've been eating a lot of Jolly Holiday salads over the years. That sounds about right. So 6 years between price increases, that seems more than fair. $1.50 after 6 years seems more than fair. So I guess what I'm saying is that, while price increases are news, the conversation is more nuanced than it seems. It's not as simple as, Disney raised price, Disney bad, Disney only want money. It's not as simple as that. And it's interesting because the conversation gets a little more nuanced when you hear things like Disney is not selling as much food as it used to. Food sales are down this year at the Disneyland Resort. Now, they don't make these numbers public, so I'm hearing this information third hand. But as I understand it, Disney is not moving food like it did in the past, and it makes you wonder why that is. What is it that is creating this situation where they're selling less food than before? Because the parks are more or less as busy as they have been, at least lately. So what might this be? There are actually a couple of viable reasons. The first that I would observe is that it's significantly more complicated just to order food in general at the parks these days. Way more complicated than it used to be. And this is due almost entirely to mobile order. Lots of people prefer just simply walking up to the window and placing an order. You feel like you're hungry, you don't want to have to surf through your phone, you just want to go to the place where you're at and order some food and get it. People prefer simplicity as opposed to the more complex. This, in spite of the fact that it's a significant time saver to use mobile order. It saves you a lot of time. But in spite of that, you still see lines, just long lines, everywhere you go at Disneyland for people getting standby food. But it's worse today than it used to be because mobile order existed pre-COVID, right? But it's worse today than it used to be because in the before times, there was one mobile order window. Let's say, take Hungry Bear, for example. There were 4 windows to place an order, 4 places to place an order, 1 window for mobile order. Now there is 2 places to place an order at Hungry Bear, and there is 3 or 4 different windows that you could pick up a mobile order. Galactic Grill, 1 standby window. There's like 9 or 10 windows at Galactic Grill, 1 of them for standby. Every other window is reserved for mobile order. And this, of course, is by design by Disney. They want it this way because they're trying to encourage people. They are trying to incentivize people to use the mobile order app. which leads us to the second viable reason. They're having staffing shortages in the dining locations across the resort. They're having trouble keeping the staff up. Well, I shouldn't say they're having trouble. This is by design. The purpose of mobile order is to lessen the number of staff required to man a dining location. But it does feel like because of this, it's creating sort of a vicious cycle where they're having trouble keeping up with people are still ordering standby. So it's getting more and more frustrating, more and more time consuming to place a standby order, and people are just giving up. I feel like they're just deciding not to eat. They're eating before the park, they're eating after the park. It's just getting too complicated. If it were easier, and here I'm kind of on a rant, but if it were easier to do standby, I feel like they would sell more food. This is a situation that I've been paying attention to for a little while, and I'm going to continue paying attention to. I have noticed a small increase in the number of standby windows throughout the park. Here and there, I'm seeing they've opened up two sides to Jolly Holiday, for example. We talked about in a recent video. There was a point when they only had the one window open at Hungry Bear. So I feel like they are starting to hedge back to that standby situation, taking a little bit of the pressure off mobile order. I'm hoping that they continue to do that. We'll stay tuned. Meanwhile, we've got these 8 to 16% price increases at Disneyland. But what about what is happening at SeaWorld? They're not raising their prices, at least I don't think so anyway. And their food is by no means cheap, just by looking at the examples that I've seen. No, they're not raising their prices. They're simply adding 5% onto the top of every single order. Here's your order. How about 5% more? Not taxes, not a tax. You're going to pay 5% plus the tax on top of that. Your pulled pork sandwich is listed on the menu at $14.99. And then on the receipt here, you can see that it was sold for $14.99, but you're actually paying $15.74 after the 5% surcharge. They're just adding it to everything. What is this for? What is this 5% surcharge for? Apparently, it's to cover increased operating costs. Twitter got after SeaWorld for this, and they responded, SeaWorld did, by saying that the surcharge will, quote, allow us to address these challenges, that is, the cost of goods and services, while still providing guests with the best possible experience. This is my second rant in this news video, which is not atypical for me, but this really has me going. I have no problem saying right here and now that is a bunch of BS. This has nothing to do with the guest experience. What this allows them to do is to give the illusion that they're not raising the prices at all, but they're actually doing exactly that, raising the prices 5% across the board. It's very subversive, and I don't like it, not one bit. Especially when you consider that the guests don't really have a choice. I mean, they do advertise the surcharge. It's there on the menu. You know it. You can see it there before you even place your order. But it's not like anybody has a choice when they walk up to the window to order their food. They have a captive market. It's not like the guest is going to leave SeaWorld, go find a McDonald's out there, and then have their lunch, and then come back into SeaWorld. That's very unlikely. I suppose they could, but it's highly unlikely. No, more likely is that they have no choice, and they're just going to buy that food and pay that 5%. So it's really got me upset, and it's the kind of I hope this doesn't last. I don't know. I mean, they say it's because they're fighting the cost of rising inflation. I would much prefer, and I think most people would agree, just raise your prices. I mean, Disney did it, but they did it at an 8 or 10% clip, or 12%, 16% in some cases, which is more than 5%. But at least they're just raising the prices as opposed to doing something subversive like hiding a 5% surcharge. I don't like it one bit. I hope it doesn't last, and I hope this is not the kind of thing that other places get their eyes on and think this is a good idea. Like I said, I guess this is a bit of a rant for me, but it is what it is. I saw this. I feel like I had to talk about it. There you go. Let's get into our next news story, which is a very positive one. Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique is now accepting reservations. Simply go to the shop's page on the Disneyland website, check availability, then scan the calendar and see if your date is available. The first day that you can reserve this, everything starts on August 25th, but it's booked, of course. So you can change your date, and if available, you can then choose between available time frames. In this case, only the afternoon date was available. Pick your time, give the name of the guest, etc., and you're on your way. Prices range from $75 to $450. I've never done any research on this in the past for obvious reasons, so I'm not sure what the differences are in the packages, though my guess is that the packages, the higher end ones, probably include a princess, photos with princesses or something like that. I remember back in the day, What at Royal Hall, we would go to visit the princesses, and every now and then you would see, somebody who just got done with their makeover do a little secret knock thing, and they would, the door would open, and they would let them get in the back door and get to go see the princesses right away and get their pictures taken. It was adorable. So I would imagine that that's probably something along those lines is included in the higher end packages. Meanwhile, stand by to Fresh Baked. So hopefully in another year or so, maybe a little more, we might see if Sophia is into that. If she's game for a princess makeover, we'll do that for her at Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. Though I have a feeling she might be more inclined to, maybe do like a witch's makeover for Halloween or something like that. She's much more a roughneck than she is a princess. And with that, we'll wrap on a Magic Key story. There's some new developments in the Magic Key situation. We'll talk about that. As of this morning, renewals are available. I got mine today. Took about 6 hours. Very magical. Sales are not yet possible. Of course, it's just renewals only. No word yet on whether, when, or if they might do sales again. Though the whispers that I'm hearing are that it's not going to be until the new year, something like February. But since our report on this a couple days ago, a few interesting things have come to my attention. Since there's some caveats to the Magic Key system, to the Magic Key program, that caught my attention and I want to share with you. They have added some new language to the terms and conditions. In buying a Magic Key, guests acknowledge that you and the Disney company are each waiving rights to file a lawsuit and the right to a jury trial. And there's actually more. There's like 2 paragraphs of this kind of language in the terms and conditions. But the general gist of this is they're trying, obviously, to prevent another lawsuit, Dream Key-like lawsuit like they're dealing with now. Now, how enforceable this is, it's not for me to say. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. But it does sound kind of, I don't know, vague a little bit. It's odd. For example, it just says lawsuit. It doesn't even specify. They don't specify this as being a Magic Key lawsuit or related to the Magic Key program. It just says lawsuit. That's it. So, like, if I trip and fall in the park and it's Disney's fault, am I also, because I'm a Magic Key holder, not allowed to litigate that? It's a question. But I'm going to leave this for the armchair lawyers, or professional lawyers for that matter, to dissect and discuss in the comments below. Instead, we'll talk about our next noteworthy option, and that is that every Magic Key now will have some sort of break on parking. Previously, the Dream Key got free parking, the Believe Key got a 50% discount on parking, and then the Enchant and Imagine Keys, they were on their own. They had to pay full price for parking. This year, Inspire retains that free parking, Believe retains their 50% break, but now Enchant and Imagine get a 25% discount on parking. So everybody's getting a break. It's a nice gesture on Disney's part, I think, and it incentivizes, I think, those keys to come to the park more often. But one thing that was brought to my attention since I made that video a couple days ago was that the parking discount for Enchant and Imagine was for the Toy Story lot only. Enchant and Imagine keys can get a 25% discount on parking, but only if they park at the Toy Story lot. And I was racking my brain trying to figure out why. I mean, obviously they're trying to get more people to park at the Toy Story parking lot, but why? It's not like they're filling either of the Mickey and Friends or Pixar Palace parking lot. There are, entire levels, entire floors that are empty every single day. They're nowhere near filling either of those 2 lots. So, as I often do, I ask smart people, what is the reason for this? And smart people said, well, it costs more. It takes more staff to operate Mickey and Friends and Pixar Pals than it does the Toy Story parking lot. And I thought about this, and it makes a lot of sense. Whenever I park at Mickey and Friends, at least during the peak times, like in the morning, I might come across, 24 or more cast members between, the attendants at the window where you pay, them telling you to go this way, them telling you to go that way. There's 3 or 4 of them everywhere you look. Meanwhile, at the Toy Story lot, which I also park at often throughout the day, and I might run into, 5 or 6 different cast members before I'm finally parked. So there's a significant difference in the number of staff. And for what it's worth, this is not the first time that I've heard that Disney is trying to do that. They're trying to divert more guests to the Toy Story lot. Whether or not it's useful is up for debate, because I feel like you still have to pay the people that work at Mickey and Friends. It's not like you can have fewer. There's still going to be tons of people parking there. But no matter what, I kind of feel like they're doing the Enchant and Imagine keys a favor, because I do feel like the Toy Story lot is the superior lot. Parking at the Mickey and Friends parking structure can be a nightmare. I've spent sometimes 30 or 40 minutes, an hour trying to park, and then you got to get on the tram and do all that. I pretty much hate parking there. I only do it when I've got actual business, or maybe every now and then I jones for the tram. But the Toy Story lot, man, it's simple. It's easy, fast, no anxiety. It's a breeze, delightful. Granted, riding the bus is not quite as magical as riding the Disneyland tram, but the way I see it, I'm getting more than enough magic once I cross the threshold and go into the park. I don't, I don't mind costing myself a little magic and saving a lot of time and anxiety by parking in Toy Story. So for those of you who are lamenting that fact that you can only park in Toy Story, I'm saying they're doing you a favor. And then finally, this is something I didn't notice at first. That's why we're talking about it now. But it could be kind of a big deal for some of you out there. Keys cannot use their benefits, their discounts, on days that they're blocked out. This was not the case before. If you, let's say you wanted to go to downtown Disney but didn't want to pay, you could park at the Mickey and Friends parking structure, then walk to downtown Disney and enjoy yourself. That is no longer the case. No parking discounts, no merchandise discounts. You have access to those benefits only on days that you are not blocked out. You have access to those benefits only on days that your ticket, your pass is eligible. So I guess, some of those downtown Disney date nights are going to be a little more expensive for some of you in the future. Just thought you should know. That's going to do it for today, guys. That's our news. Thank you very much for watching. Follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's Fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. And if you like our show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Fresh Baked.